If we can get clear on the lifestyle, then you can get clear on, okay, what's the result I need to create that lifestyle? If you know what the result is, then we can go, great, let's now put an action plan together to actually get it. So the first thing is we need to get clear on what our vision is, okay? And then it comes down to these 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars is exactly what I use. And I've used it multiple times in my life to reinvent my life. I've used it to get to the next level of success. I've taught this all around the world to people and seen them create extraordinary things in their life from it.
Are you looking to achieve massive success in your life without dealing with costly investment nightmares? If yes, then this is the podcast for you. Here, we provide engineers and busy professionals all the secrets and strategies to create multiple streams of income, build generational wealth, and live a meaningful life by design. Here's your host, Ted Patel.
Welcome, Decoding Cashflow listeners. Today we have an amazing guest, Morgan Nelson. Morgan is a founder and CEO of Morgan T. Nelson Event Company, one of the Australia's largest growing and top-rated personal and professional development company. He helps individuals break through fear, self-doubt, and limitations to finally create their life with intention, passion, and next-level success. He's also founder of podcast, The Dream Out Loud. Morgan, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Mate, I'm very excited to have a chat with you and talk all things cash flow, money, mindset, personal development, growth. I'm all for it, so I'm excited.
That's great. It's going to be a great show. There will be so many golden nuggets in the show. I'm sure, the listeners would be very happy at the end, and they'll have a lot of things to take away and to act on. Yeah. So, Morgan, just to get started, can you brief our listeners about your background, who you are, how you got started as, the person in this field, and what's your next goal? Like, what do you see yourself?
Yeah. So how we got started was an interesting story. I'll try and make it a short story, but pretty much at school, I never made it to I never stayed to year 12 because I was good at it. I only stayed to year 12 for the parties and the girls. And over here, it's not really like what it is in the States there. Like over there, like you've got to go to college, right? It's a lot of pressure, a lot of societal pressure where if you don't go to college, you'll never be successful at anything in life. It's kind of the narrative that gets pushed, right?
Yeah.
And over here, it's kind of similar. But also, if you don't go to college or university, it's not like frowned upon. It's sort of like, because there's many other opportunities you can still go and do.
Yeah.
So when I finished school, though, I literally left thinking that I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough, because my teachers told me, don't do anything in reading, writing, journalism, or speaking, because it's not your strong suit. Now I've spoken in 5 countries around the world, crowds of 6,000 at a time, and but I left school and I dived into an apprenticeship as a carpenter. So I was learning how to build houses and do all these things, because here in Australia, that's kind of like a lot of guys will just leave school, go get a trade, become a plumber, electrician, carpenter, roofer, something like this. It's very easy to get into. And so I started in there and just went down a really deep path of negativity, toxicity, drugs, alcohol, violence, depression. Like all the things that the average person doesn't really want. And one day when I was going through all this, I remember just looking at myself in the mirror, just asking myself, is this actually the life that I want? And obviously the answer was no, but I made a decision in that moment to actually just change my environment, because I looked back on my life, and at one point in my life, I was extremely happy, and I was hanging with all my friends and having a good life. I had a good job, had a good career, would go surfing on the weekends, go partying on the weekends. And here I am slaving away, working 100 hours a week plus, and, getting paid next to nothing, depressed, relying on drugs, relying on alcohol just to make it through every single day. And I was like, where did I go wrong? Where did I go off path here? And the thing came down to, I was just in the wrong environment. I changed my environment. I went from surrounding myself with positive people to surround myself with toxic people. So when I figured that out, I got out of there. I changed. And, that was about 19 years old. I'm 30 now. From that moment, I sort of just set out to want to surround myself with people that had the same life that I want, that had the life I actually wanted. Because an early mentor said to me once, he says, Morgan, don't take advice from broke and unhappy people. And until that moment, that's all I was doing. I was listening to people that were broke. I was listening to people that were unhappy. I was listening to people that were just going nowhere, still people, still broke, still complaining, still going absolutely nowhere in their life. And I was taking their advice, and I was becoming just like them as well. And then when I was 21 years old, I reached out to a friend of mine who, he had a pretty successful life. I reached out to him and I was like, dude, how are you doing all this? Like, what is it you're doing? And he actually introduced me to a network marketing business. I had no idea what it was. But I just saw, I was like, hey, this is something I could probably figure out on the side. Like, I know nothing about business, but at least it's something. Because at that point, I knew that if I just keep doing the same thing I've always done, I'm going to keep getting all the same results I've always gotten. So something had to change. And I dived into that. And that was really the beginning of personal development. 21 years old, he handed me a CD by Jim Rohn. And I started to just reprogram my mind. I've never heard these philosophies like, don't wish life was easier, wish you were better. And I was like, holy shit, like that's profound. I didn't know that my life could actually get better. I just thought life literally came to me that's all I got. And that started this absolute obsession of personal development mindset. And over the last 9 years, I've invested, over $250,000 now into personal development, worked with some of the best people in the world, like Bob Proctor's, Tony Robbins. I'm a neuro-linguistic programming trainer, hypnotherapist. I've dived into every single thing you could probably think about when it comes to neuroscience, human behavioral psychology, and why we do the things we do. Because I just got obsessed on why people end up extremely suffering and not successful when we all want to be successful. I've never met any person, all the events I've spoken across the world, I've never met anyone come to me and say, Morgan, I actually don't want to be rich and happy. Everyone wants the good life. So what stops people? And I got obsessed on that. And I started to figure it out myself and went through that process of completely screwed up at 21. And I was financially free by 23. Went on to make my first $1 million by 28. And since then, made millions of dollars, traveled the world, had a lot of fun doing the same thing, and just kind of devoted, I guess, my life now to teaching people the things that we should have learned in school. I guess that's kind of the theme of everything now. So that's kind of what's gotten me into everything we're doing right now. And you asked, what's the next goal for us is, we're creating the Dream Out Loud Institute over here, which is just a whole bunch of programs and seminars that people can go through, like really for entrepreneurs to go through to design their dream life. And the goal is to impact 1 million people through these programs in the next 5 years. That's the goal.
Awesome. That's great. So when you spoke about education and you mentioned Jim Rohn, right? I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn too. And one of his line came into mind, which says, the formal education can make you a living, but self-education can make you a fortune. So I believe in that too. You should never stop learning. You should develop yourself every single day without a pause. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I remember I had a Jim Rohn CD, and it's funny when I share this now because it makes me feel old. It's like I had a CD. I'm one of those people now. I'm like, back in my day, I had a CD in my car, and my drive to work every single day was 52 minutes, and this CD went for 56 minutes. So every single day I'd pull up to work and I'd just finish the last 4 minutes sitting in the car, looking at the job site. And I listened to that CD I every single day for at least 90 days. It was at least 90 days. Every day, every morning, just reprogramming my mind, inserting new philosophies. And I think that's really what's helped me so much because, he also shared the story about the sower and the reaper. He's like the ambitious sower. The ambitious sower just kept sowing the seed. And it's the whole biblical story, I guess, of, just keep going. Because as long as you're out there having conversations about your business, if you're doing the work, if you're chopping wood, carrying water, eventually the seed will fall on good ground and it will blossom to an incredible tree. But it might not happen right away. Even if you think it happens right away, it might fall on shallow ground and bloom and then die. And it might grow a little bit, and then hot wind comes past and it kills it, or the birds might come and attack it. The haters, and there's so many stories in that. And that one thing has also helped me through, everything I've done, just having this attitude of, I'm not trying to create success now. What I'm doing is I'm creating a successful life, and I'm focusing on actually just enjoying the journey and knowing that the journey is just a matter of sowing and reaping and sowing and reaping and sowing and just continually planting seeds. So yeah, Jim Rohn is the GOAT. I think he really kind of started the whole personal
Yeah, the whole
development,
personal
really.
development.
Yeah.
And big fan of Tony Robbins too, right? He also here in US, right? There are so
Yeah.
many followers of Tony Robbins. Uh, yeah. Uh, so now, you have seen many people, right? As you mentioned, like when you were 19, you didn't had no vision, right? Where you want to end up in your career. You just worked 100 hours a week. So for people who are just working, who doesn't have the purpose clear in life, what is your advice to them? How can they find their purpose?
Yeah. I do believe every single one of us does have a purpose. I had a conversation with Les Brown, and Les is always about, you got to dream, create your dream. You got to be hungry and all this. And I said to him, I said, Les, do you really think that everybody can live their dream life? And he says to me, he's like, Morgan, that's why we're here. He said, there's a 1 in 400 trillion chances of you even being born. So what are the chances that you were born by accident? What are the chances you're here to just fall into society's idea of you and go ahead and do whatever it is you're doing? It's probably completely impossible, really. Like it's, at least if you want to think about it that way. And so he's like, every single one of us has a skill set, has an idea, has a book in them, has a business in them, has something in them, that unique skill set that is waiting to come to life. And in fact, before I got into personal development, I actually come across a motivational thing by Les Brown. And Les Brown, he's like, when you die, when you're on your deathbed, the ghosts of all of your dreams, the ghosts of all of your ideas, the ghosts of your books, the businesses are going to come to you, stand around you, looking down at you and say, we came to you to bring us life, and now we must die with you forever. And that's why they say the richest place in the world is not Dubai, it's not London, it's not New York, it's none of these places. The richest place in the world is the gravesite, because that's where the most ideas actually just died with people. So I truly believe that every single person does have something in them. Now, the thing that stops a lot of people from bringing it out is their own limiting beliefs. They're getting in their own way, the people they're surrounded with, and all these sorts of things. But how we can kind of, like, what I walk people through is I take them through a process called the True North process. And, your true north, in my opinion, is what can be found at the combination. It's kind of like the ikigai, things that we love, the things we're really good at, things the world needs, and then what we can get paid a lot of money for. But how do you determine the things that you ultimately really love? Look around and think about, what are the things that give you energy? What are the things that you spend your money on? What are the things that you just can't stop thinking about? We've all got something that comes across our plate and we look at that and go, oh, I can't afford that. But then something else comes across our plate for the same amount of money, if not more. And we go, oh my God, I can buy that. Oh my God. Or you'll find money and get it. So if we look at the things that we spend money on, the things that give us energy, the conversations that give us energy. You see, energy, sometimes people come to me and like, I need more motivation. I'm not energized. And it's not a problem of being unmotivated or being unenergized. It's the problem of being uninspired. Because if we're completely inspired, we have infinite amounts of energy. So the purpose, I really think is at the conjunction of two things. The thing that you ultimately love to do, the thing that you just obsess on, the thing in this world that you're like, I'm so obsessed with this. I love it. I'm just obsessed with becoming the best at this. And then where it overlaps with how you can be in service of somebody else with that thing. So for me, I was obsessed in personal development. I was obsessed with human behavioral psychology and how and why we do the things we do. I've found my purpose once I started to teach that to other people. I started to teach other people and see life, in-person breakthroughs happen in people's lives within minutes. And to see these huge transformations, that in itself gave me, I was like, wow, this is what I'm here to do. And I think like people can look at those things. People can look at those things and be like, these are the things I love to do. And if you can find a way to add value to other people and be in service of somebody else doing those things you love to do, that's going to lead you to your purpose. However, you can also figure out what isn't meant for you by your own language. So if you catch yourself saying things like, I should do that, I should do this. Well, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, I should be a doctor. Why? Because, my parents said, my dad was a doctor. I got good grades. All my teachers said I was be good at a doctor. So I guess I should just be a doctor. Perfect example. I have a friend, Ali Abdul. He is a doctor. He's also the #1 YouTuber in the world for productivity. He's got nearly 5 million subscribers on YouTube. And when he was a doctor, he was doing that because he thought he should do it. He followed the path. He's like, well, I'm very smart. I'm this. And he's doing it. And then his obsession came out for making videos. Then he just started years ago making videos on YouTube, one by one. And then people around him started to be like, what are you kidding? What are you crazy for doing that? Making videos. You're a doctor. You have such a prestigious career. You got to throw it all away to make videos online. And then I was having a conversation with him the other day in London. And I said, how much did you guys make this year? And he goes, nearly £5 million, which is
that's
US,
from the YouTube channel.
From YouTube. Wow. From YouTube, right? But the coolest thing is, not only has he made gangster money, but he's created a life on purpose for him. So if we look at the things that we say, I should do this, I should do that, that's going to lead you to the things that you're not doing it for you. You're doing it because someone else told you that's what you should do. Society's told you that you'll be great at that. Your parents, cultural beliefs, location, environment, whatever it is, and if so that can help you identify going, this actually isn't for me, because you've waken up doing something that you're like, well, I should do this. If you should, you should all over yourself and just go absolutely nowhere. But those two things can help you identify what isn't for you, and then also identify what actually is for you. And you can lean into the things that give you energy. And you can also look at the opposite side. What takes your energy the most? What I realize when I do one-on-one coaching calls with people, they really tire me out. So I don't do them anymore. I just don't like them, because I'm like, this is not my thing. I prefer to put 500 people into a room for a weekend and coach 500 people at once in 3 days versus one-on-one calls. That's just not my thing. I figured it out, because I can be on stage for 40 hours in a weekend and still have energy at the end of the weekend. Or I can talk to somebody for an hour and at the end of it be like, oh my God, I need to have a nap. Right? So we can look at the things that take our energy, that drain us. They're not for us. The things that give us energy, lean more into them.
Awesome. Love it, man. Love the thoughts. The other thing, Nelson, before we started the recording of this podcast, right? We spoke about the 4 pillars to build a life of dream. Can you explain more about that to our audience, please?
Yes. So everyone here that wants to create a life, an extraordinary life, I call it. Like I always ask people, first, get clear on exactly what it is you want to make. Because I can give you this formula, but if you start using the formula and your ladder's against the wrong wall, then you'll use it and you'll get to the top and you'll be like, oh my God, I'm not happy here. So the first thing, go get clear on what wall is your ladder against. Get clear on this. And what is the vision you actually want? What is the extraordinary life you want? What really is it? What's the end result? What is the lifestyle? Because if we can get clear on the lifestyle, then you can get clear on, okay, what's the result I need to create that lifestyle? If you know what the result is, then we can go, great, let's now put an action plan together to actually get it. So the first thing is we need to get clear on what our vision is, okay? And then it comes down to these 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars is exactly what I use. And I've used it multiple times in my life to reinvent my life. I've used it to get to the next level of success. I've taught this all around the world to people and seen them create extraordinary things in their life from it. You see, there's only 4 things we need. The first one starts with the right environment. And we've all heard this before, though. So let me explain it to hopefully a little bit deeper level so everyone here can understand it. We all know that you are who you surround yourself with. I think that's kind of like personal development 101, success 101. You are who you surround yourself with. You'll become the 6th person of the 5 you surround yourself with the most. We get that. We know it. But let me tell you why it works. Because it's not just you picking up new ideas. It's not you just seeing new habits and behaviors and all these things. It's not that at all. Psychologists did a study. This was the very first study they ever did in psychology. When they started to study humans, they wanted to see why we do the things we do. And what they did is they put 4 lines on a wall. One of the lines was double the length. Okay. Then they brought in 4 people. 3 of them were paid actors. One of them was a real person. They told the paid actors, hey, we want you to go in and circle the A, letter A. Okay. Out of A, B, C, D, out of the 4 lines, D is the long one. We want you to go in circle A. Everybody goes in and they say to everybody, hey, go and circle the line that stands out the most. So everyone circles A, as they were told to do. And the real person comes in, looks at them and laughs at them. He's like, what on earth are you smoking? The psychedelic testing is next door. And he's like, it's D. Clearly it's D. It's double the size. It's D, right? So then they reset it. They do it again. They change up the letters. They told them, hey, go and pick B this time. Now it's C. They go in, they pick B. This guy comes in, looks at them, doesn't laugh as much this time, but a little bit more doubtful. He's like, what the? No, it's C, like circle C. This goes on for 4, 5, 6 times. Every single time they've done it. By the 6th time, what happens is the people go in, the actors get told, you pick A, and guess what happens? The other guy, he also circles A.
Yeah.
And this is mind-blowing. This only takes 6 times. And I do this in a live setting. And I say, I draw the lines on the board. I say, which one's wrong? Which one's different? And everyone's like, it's D. And then all I have to do is question them. I say, are you sure? And I lose half the room already. Half the room like, well, actually, now I'm not, because I'm questioning them. And I'm the authority in the room, right? Are you sure? And then some people are like, yeah, I'm sure. I said, would you bet me $500 that is actually the answer? And nearly every single hand goes down except maybe 5% of the room. And then I'm like, no, of course that is the answer. And everyone's like, oh my God. What? But I was like, the thing is this, I made you doubt what you knew was 100% right. You knew with absolute certainty that was the right answer, but I made you doubt it just because I questioned you. Because you saw other people around you circling A, you started to think you were stupid. You started to think something was wrong with you. You started to think, oh, it must be a trick question. You started to think, oh, well, maybe I can't. But whatever reason you didn't select it is your own reason. But here's what they noticed was it's more important for human beings to fit in with the cult, with the clan, with the tribe, than it is for us to stand out and be right. So think about, let's say you grow up in an environment where no one's successful, no one talks about business, entrepreneurship, success, money, nothing like that. What's normal for them is to go through a life of mediocrity. It's very normal for them to do that. So then now you come along, you listen to this podcast and you're like, I want to be successful. And you start saying like, I've got this vision inside of me. I have this dream inside of me. I want to bring to life. And you start to talk about it. Everyone else starts to go, are you sure? Are you sure you can do that? Oh, but do you know how hard it is to do that? Only 1% of the world end up actually doing that. Are you sure it's going to be? And then you start to go, well,
self-doubting yourself.
You know what?
Yeah.
You go, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't. Because what happens is if we think back to the tribal days, we were safest when we were in a group. So our brain is programmed, right? The oldest part of our brain, reptilian part of our brain, wants to fight or flight. And it is safest when it's with other people. But unfortunately, what now happens is you feel, psychologically, you feel safe because you're with these people that everyone's the group. But then there's a spirit in you that's just died because you never went after the thing that you actually wanted. And that is why the environment thing actually, like psychologically, that's why you become who you surround yourself with, because you'll eventually give up on what you know is right. You'll give up on what it is you actually want because everyone else around you has also done the same. But what if we flip it? Knowing that we know that, and we go, well, hang on a second. What if what I think is right is mediocrity, and my whole new circle, their new version of normal is success, is wealth, is freedom, is happiness, is impact, is collaboration, is entrepreneurship, property, cash. What if that's their new circle? If that's their normal, what's eventually going to happen is I'm going to circle my letter still in the beginning and go, No, you guys can't have all that because no one does. But eventually you'll go, actually, maybe I can. Because again, it's more important for you to fit into the new environment than it is for you to stand out and be on your own. So the key is to actually get yourself into an environment where their perception of normal is far better than your perception of normal. The only thing is, leaving one circle to the next is the lonely chapter, is the lonely journey. It's the part of the journey where people must actually exit sitting at a table of all their friends, realize this is not the table I want to be at, and they move and shift and sit at another table. That is, there's that, it's like that no man's land in between there. That's why I'm glad that there's podcasts, there's books, there's all these things out there that people can really drown out the noise while they're finding that new circle. So the right environment is the most crucial part because it'll literally make or break you. Like you can completely screw up your entire life by hanging around the wrong people. And it's the fastest way to screw up your life. So that's the right environment. The second one is the right vehicle. That's why I love what you do, because you're talking about property investing, you're talking about creating cash flow. So the people that are listening to this, I'm assuming they're dialing in their vehicle is through property perhaps, or at least some sort of cash flow producing assets. So you've got to get clear on what's the vehicle. What is the vehicle that's going to help you? When I was 21, my vehicle was network marketing. I built that to multiple six-figure business residually. I was financially free by 23. Then we're doing 7 figures a year in sales by the time I was 25. And, that really created the freedom I wanted. And then when I was about 26, 27, I started to pivot out of that. I closed that business and I moved into everything that I'm doing now, because for me, that vehicle, it got to a point where it got really uninspiring for me. And that's when I knew it was time to actually just move the ladder. That vehicle's done. What's the next one for me? And that's the chapter we're in right here, doing everything we're doing here. So we can actually determine the vehicle, that if the vehicle we're in is right for us, we're going to be lit up every day to work on it out of inspiration, not desperation. We're going to be lit up because we're like, this is what I want to do. I'm so excited to dive into this, versus I've got to do this because if I don't, I'm going to be broke this week, right? Okay. So even though some people's journey, you've got to go through that still and, get things off the ground. But, it's a lot better when you can operate from inspiration instead of desperation. That's so true. The right vehicle, discovering the true north, discovering what is it for you, diving into that. And then the third one is the right timing. So the right timing comes down to, is it that exact thing. Sometimes I say to people, like, when's the best time to go out there and start creating a dream life? Probably a decade ago. The next best time is right now, because the longer you wait, the further away you get from every single thing you want, because there's no straight lines in the universe. You're either compounding upwards towards the life you want, or you're compounding down. So if you're going to let another day come past where you're not actually working on the things you want, then you're compounding negatively. So the longer you wait, the further away from what it is you actually want to create will come. Yeah. So how do we actually, it's easier said than done though. It's easier said than done. So how do we actually create that inspiration? How do we create that motivation to get going? Two things. There's two driving forces in all human behavior. The first one is the need for pleasure. Us as humans will always seek out pleasure. We want to, let's make $1 million. Why? Because of the lifestyle. Because I get a car, I get to travel, I get to this or whatever. That's amazing. But every single person I've ever asked around the world, do you want $1 million? They're all going to say, yeah. Who doesn't want more money? Who doesn't want it? But then you look, why don't people go after it then? If that was the only thing that motivated people, why isn't everyone extremely rich and have the life they want? Because the second driving force in all human behavior is to avoid pain. So every single decision we're doing is to either seek pleasure or to avoid pain. Now, if we think that the attainment of the pleasure will bring us pain, then we won't do it, because pain is about 11 times more motivating than pleasure. We'll do anything to avoid pain, but we'll only do what's convenient to get pleasure. Because people can also, let's look at someone who's overweight, for example, right? Someone who's overweight, out of shape, and they know they are, and they want to get healthy, they want to drop weight, they want to get super sexy. to go to the gym and put in that effort and to have a strict diet, like we all know that like it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out what the average person needs to do to be healthy, right?
Yeah.
Work out 5 times a week, eat healthy foods. That's about it. Stop eating Ben and Jerry's, Hugs and Does, just cut them shit out, eat some healthy things, go to the gym. And most people get to be in pretty good shape. But why do people not do it? Because they perceive that going to the gym and actually putting in that effort is painful. And I agree. Like, I don't like going to the gym. In fact, every time I go to the gym, I'm like, I fucking hate this. But I do it because I know I need to do it. Yeah. So I do it because I do those small disciplines. But if we think that, it's a lot easier to stay at home than to go to the gym, which it is, then that's what we'll do, because we're now getting a payoff. I've avoided pain by not going to the gym, and I've gained pleasure by staying home and playing Call of Duty. Yeah. Like that's the thing. But this is where discipline kicks in, and we need to actually step in and be like, I'm not going to negotiate with my mind anymore. I'm not going to negotiate, and I'm going to make a decision to actually do the hard things. Because if we can build our life up of doing the little tiny things that are hard, eventually we're going to have a life that's really easy. We're going to have a life that's really easy. And the more hard things I've done, the easier my life's gotten. And also at the same time, I continually choose to do hard things. Like, my life's gotten easier because I've been able to hire an assistant who manages my life. I've been able to, like, when I go and travel, I stay at nice places. Sometimes we'll fly first class. When I have these little things in life, life's easy and comfortable for me now. But it's because I continually do things that are hard. I do things when I don't want to do it. And we need to do that. So how do we determine the motivation to actually get started right now? Is we've got to get really clear on what are all the things that are currently hurting us right now in our current life. And if we can get clear on them, it's going to bring up a lot of motivation for us. So if we can actually write down a whole list of things that are hurting us, having to say no to the kids all the time, not being able to have the family holidays, not having the money that I want, not having the freedom, all these things that are current reality. When I first did this, I wrote down things like being broke, not being able to hang out with my friends when I wanted to, living in a crappy house, living in a share house, having an abusive boss, not having freedom to choose my own life. Like, some days I wanted to just wake up and go to the beach today, not go to work. Yeah. Right. But I had to, like, I had to do that. So I just, and for me, honestly, it sounds stupid, but that was painful. I was like, I just don't like having someone else tell me how I can live my life. Like, I'm an adult. So for me, these things were painful enough. So when I finished my workday, I actually came home and was like, this sucks enough that I want to actually do the work required to get out of this situation. But if we can't get clear on what those things are, and we're only driven by our vision, like a vision board, we got the law of attraction and we've got all these things. If we're only driven by the pleasure, then we'll only do what's convenient. We'll never do what's actually necessary to reach our goals. So if we get really clear on what it is driving us, where we're going, and why we must get off the nail right now, the nail that's up our ass, that's hurting us, then we won't move. So we've got to dive into that. And then the fourth pillar is to become the right you. Fourth pillar is all about becoming the right you. So we've got the conscious mind, we've got the unconscious mind. The conscious mind is control of all our actions, the things we do, okay? And our results. So we can actually sit here, we can go, this is the result I want. We can consciously think that. We can think of an idea, we can think of a vision. That's the life that we want. But what actually controls it is the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is going to make up about 80 to 99% of all of our results, because nearly all of our behaviors are habitual. Have you ever done something? I'm sure everyone listening to this has probably done something at some point, and it wasn't a really good behavior, but you did it. And someone goes, why do you do that? Maybe it's biting your nails. Maybe it's complaining. I'm not sure. Why do you do that? Oh, I don't know. I just do it. It's just a habit. So something is happening unconsciously underneath the surface that makes you do the behavior. Some people self-sabotage. Some people will create success, then chop it all down. They burn it all down. They go, why do you do that? I don't know. I just did it. Why? You just ruined another relationship. Why did you say that? I don't know. Because 80 to 99% of everything we do is unconsciously, which comes down to our beliefs, our values, and our attitude. So we've got to have the right belief systems in place, the things that actually going to support us. We've got to have belief that the thing we want is actually attainable, not that we can do it. See, sometimes people say to me, but Morgan, I just don't have the belief that I can do it yet. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Until you do it, you're not really going to have all this evidence to show you that you can do it. But can you believe that it's actually attainable? Like, has the thing you're wanting to do been done by somebody in the world? Yes or no? Unless you're trying to colonize Mars, I guarantee you someone's already done the thing you want to do. So if they can do it, why not you?
Yeah.
So if you can hold the belief that it's actually attainable, all we need to do now is go, what skill set and mindset is required from me to achieve that now? How do I match this person? And our values are the things that drive all our human behavior. Like, our values are the things we're going to move towards, the things that are important to us. Our values are mostly programmed between 0 and 7 years old from our environment, what we're learning, what we're hearing as this little unconscious mind walking around. And the values are the things that determine, like, everyone who listens to this podcast probably value money, success, wealth, growth, one of those things. Otherwise, they just wouldn't click on this.
Yeah.
If someone highly values security, they probably won't listen to this because they're like, investing is risky. Right?
That's true. That's true.
Right? And they're just like, well, it's just not a thing for me, because they can be led by things that are important to them, that lead their life. And the last part about becoming the right you is, if this is the only thing people get from this entire spiel I've just given, is the right attitude. So there's 3 types of people in the world. The first person, they get to sit there and they get to complain about the wind. They got to complain and complain and complain. They can say, well, you don't understand what it's like to be me. The wind, it just never blows in my direction. It's so hard.
Yeah.
COVID. The other day I met someone who said something about COVID. I said, COVID was fucking 3 years ago. Get over it. It's done. It's finished.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't understand. COVID is really bad for me. It's done. But, they're still in the idea of
People
being a
need
victim.
some excuses, right? To hang on.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It's exactly right. So the first person will just use excuses as to why they haven't done the thing. Okay. But then, and that's, hopefully this is some awareness to be like, oh, wow, if that has been you, trust me, and I've been all 3 of these people. Yeah. I used to use excuses all the time. But the second person, what they do is they meditate and they manifest and they sit under the full moon, right? And they just wait and wait and wait. They just hope and hope and hope that eventually the wind is going to change for them. They're like, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And I hope that the wind just changes one day. But we all know that that's the definition of insanity. But the last person, they just get up and they change their sails. They get up and they realize wind is not blowing in the direction I want. So I'm going to adjust. I'm going to adjust my sails. And when the wind changes again, they adjust again. The wind changes again, they adjust again. And they understand that life is nothing but a continuous game of adjusting to what is happening in the world. It's never going to be the perfect time. I don't know if you can think back the last decade, like 10 years ago, there was probably people were waiting for, when the right president gets in, right? Maybe they're blaming Trump or whatever, like, but when Trump's not in, and then next minute, COVID, when COVID's over, now there's Russia, Ukraine war. Well, when the war, now there's Palestine, Israel war. But then there's always going to be something happening. Yeah, always. There's never going to be this nice, clean slate ever. Yeah. So what it is to adopt the mindset and the attitude to go, if I want a bad knife, I'm going to continually adjust my sail to what actually is happening in the world, not what I want it to be, not what I expect it to be, but what it actually is. That's what's going to help us.
Awesome. Love it. So that brings another point, right, about procrastination. So you have seen people, right? They know it is good. Whatever, they have to finish that work, but they won't do it. They'll leave it for the last moment, or maybe I'll do it tomorrow. So in those kind of situations, what are your suggestions? How can you train your brain to avoid these kind of procrastination situation and take action right away?
Well, it's a big conversation, this one, because it depends, right? Because I will still procrastinate on things. And the things that I notice I'm procrastinating on, it's because they're low in my values. They're just not important for me. And they're either a low income task, or it might be a lot of brain power to get done, or I'm not sure. But because I'll still notice myself procrastinating sometimes. And if I do that, I just look at myself and go, is this thing that I'm putting off absolutely necessary for me to get done today? If the answer is yes, then I'd be disciplined. I say, well, cut it out, do it now. And I just dive into it. And then it's just a matter of actually being disciplined and having to step into it. Because that's me now, but I've just become really a master of sort of knowing not to negotiate with my brain and how to get things happening. But for someone sort of maybe just beginning, you've got to look at and going, what is the payoff I'm getting from not doing this? Because you're getting some sort of pleasurable reward. And then what is going to be the pain if I don't do this? So, because a lot of people will look at it and go, well, it's going to be painful to do it, whether it be stressful, I can't figure it out, I don't know how, I don't have the time. All these reasons, they perceive pain attached to it. So it's painful to do it, and it's easy not to do it, so they don't do it. It's easy. It just makes it simple. We're just following how our brain works. Our brain's there to keep us alive. It's just doing its job. But we need to actually look at it and go, okay, what is the pain if I don't do this? So a perfect example would be yesterday. I did a whole day of content recording yesterday. So we recorded 4 YouTube videos yesterday, we scripted all these things. And I left it to the last minute, right? I finished them right 10 minutes before the end of the day, right? Because that was just, there's that, whose law? Parkinson's law. We will fill time with the work, okay? We will fill time that's allocated with work. That's it. So if we say, I'm gonna take 1 day to get this whole task done, then we'll screw around for the whole first 6 hours, and then we'll smash it out in the last 2 hours. If we say, oh, we're going to give a whole month to get this done, then we'll do nothing for the first 3 weeks, smash it in the last week. That's just a normal law. It's what we do. So I try to work with that law and give myself deadlines, but I make sure that the deadlines are really short. Great. Here's the things I'm going to get done today, and they're all going to be done by 3 o'clock. And then I give myself a pleasure. If I get it done by 3 o'clock, I go for a beach walk. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, I want to go to the beach because it's a beautiful day outside. And then I smash it all and I get them all done. But if I don't have that hard stop and that reward after, then I might just drag it on all day. I'll procrastinate. I'll watch YouTube videos or do other things because there's no deadline to it. So if we have a deadline based off Parkinson's law, we'll actually be a higher performer. But then if we can also tap into it and give ourselves a reward for getting it done, and literally it's like bargaining with a child. If you say, if we've got children, I don't have children, but this is probably how I do it. I'd negotiate with them. Everything's a negotiation. Can we go to the park? Sure, we can go to the park right after you've cleaned up your room and you've done all these things. And then you do that in the next hour and I'll take it to the park. Yeah, that kid's going to be bang, motivated. Boom, 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 boom.
I got 2 of them. I know how it works.
Yeah, right. I'm assuming that's how it would work, right? It's like, it's great. If you go and do the task you're putting off, and I'll give you a reward. Because then they're going to be like, that's exciting. But if the reward isn't that exciting, okay, and they're like, oh, well, I still don't want to do it. I don't care about the park. We've got to get clear. And I don't know how you do this with a child, but with us, we got to get clear on what's going to be the ultimate pain if we don't do this now. So yesterday, I knew that if I didn't do it yesterday, then we wouldn't have content to put out this whole month because I do not have a spare day for the next 2.5 weeks. So for me, that was a big enough pain to be like, I wasn't feeling like doing videos yesterday, but I didn't because I had to, right? So I always leverage the pleasure and the pain thing with the procrastination. But a lot of the time as well, we procrastinate on things that are just not important for us. So I will also look at that. If I'm really procrastinating on big things, it's probably because I shouldn't be doing them because they're low priority tasks for me. And I'll look to see, can I actually outsource this? Like, because I'll find every excuse to miss meetings with my team because I hate meetings. And then I realized, I was like, do I even need to be on the meetings? So I just create a system where my marketing manager will run the entire meeting and just give me a quick 5-minute overview of how the meeting went after. I'm like, that's perfect. Because now I'm not going to feel bad about not coming to the meeting. I'm just telling them, I'm not coming to the meeting. You guys do it without me. And it just works. So if we can continually analyze things and be clear and go, why are we missing out on this? Why are we procrastinating on this? Maybe it's time to actually delegate that task as well.
That's really good. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the other thing is, right, let's switch the gears from procrastination to habits. According to you, what are some of the good habits that a person should have, and what are some of the bad habits they should not have to further their career?
Some good habits would probably be, would have to be obviously the normal ones: a good gym routine, health routine. Like, because health, there's a saying, a person with all the health in the world has 1,000 wishes, but a person with no health has only one wish. So, our health is probably the most important thing. So we've got to especially be a high performer, be a successful entrepreneur, a successful person. There's not one extremely successful person I know personally that isn't pretty dialed in with their health, or at least have just some sort of regular gym routine or whatever. Yeah. So that would definitely be a good habit. Planning. Like, for so long, I wanted to create a life of freedom. When I was 23, I was financially free. I moved to Mexico. I lived on the beach. Every day I woke up, I didn't know what I was going to do that day, and that's all I wanted. I wanted to wake up, and if the surf was good, I'd go for a surf. If I want to go do yoga that day, I do yoga. And then maybe I'll work my business. Maybe we'll go out to a dance night or whatever. And I did that for so long because I thought that's the life I wanted. And then when I was trying to get to the next level, my mentor said to me, he said, "Morgan, what's in your diary?" And I said, "I don't have a diary." And he goes, "Why not?" I said, "Because it limits me." And he goes, "You want freedom?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he says, "Freedom comes with structure. You can't have freedom without structure." And I didn't understand what he was meaning until I actually create a lot of structure in my life. Now I feel like I've got a lot more freedom and I'm very structured. I have a diary, I have a planner. I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. Like I said, I'm literally have nearly every single day filled between now and Christmas Day, because it's just absolutely optimized. But also in there is included with a 2-week trip to Bali. I'm going skydiving. I'm going away to an island this weekend. Like, in there is embedded fun things for my free time and doing amazing things. So, a successful habit is definitely someone who actually is organized and plans their life. Because if we don't plan our life, we'll fall into someone else's plan. Okay. Yeah. So it's super important, right? So we've got health, we've got actually being planned. The next thing I would say is have a habit of actually pushing the comfort zone. Have a habit that every single time you're forced, when something comes up, when it's uncomfortable, you just do it. You become a person that just does it. Because every single time we lean into what's uncomfortable, we're obviously going to expand our comfort zone. We get to the other side of the comfort. I use the analogy of skydiving. I don't know if you've ever been skydiving before, but
no, I haven't.
It's amazing. You should give it a go. It's fun.
I'm always afraid of skydiving, frankly speaking. I don't know. Maybe I'm too afraid of diving from that height.
Oh, it's so exhilarating. But I jump solo now, right? So I'll jump out of a plane by myself. And every single time I talk to somebody like you, who's kind of like, "Oh, I don't really want to go," and then they break the fear and they do it. Every time it's like this, they say the same thing. Before they went, they were super scared and they were nervous. Then they jumped. And as soon as they landed on the ground, the first thing they said is, "Let's go again." Every single time. And I'm like, that's so fascinating. What changes? What changes is, in the beginning, it's extremely uncomfortable. It's scary. It's like, this is outside the comfort zone, like you wouldn't believe. This is horrible. But then when you do it and you push through the stress threshold, when you've come back down, you now know what the feeling is like on the other side of the comfort zone. And it's the most rewarding feeling ever. The dopamine's flooded, you're excited, and all you want to do is do it again. But now you're about to go do the task that you were so scared to do before. But now you're not as scared anymore because it's kind of more comfortable for you. And every single time we do the things that are a little uncomfortable, we become comfortable doing what's uncomfortable. And in the process of doing this, we develop self-trust. Self-trust is the thing that is required to create success beyond our wildest dreams, because there's no rule book for how to be successful. There's no rule book on how you can individually do it. There's some guidelines, there's some principles, but there's no step-by-step recipe. You've got to figure that out every single time. And if you don't have enough self-trust to figure out the dots in between, then you'll never go after it. So that's why I think falling in love with stepping out of the comfort zone is one of the most important habits we can take. So that would be my 3.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. the other thing you said, have a structure in the life. I like to add one more thing on top of it. Have a structure, but in addition to structure, have discipline. Even if it is if you're running, even if it's raining, you go out, you run, regardless of what kind of day it is. So
well, it comes back to the integrity thing, right? Like doing the thing you said you're gonna do long after the feeling in which you said it has gone, even if the circumstances have changed. Because when we do this as well, it develops more self-esteem. A lot of people these days lacking self-esteem just because they don't follow through on the things that they said they were gonna do. Simple as like, I'm gonna get out of bed tomorrow at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna go to the gym tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes, like you said, it's raining. Oh, not today. But if you go out there and you even just go for a 5-minute run, you would come back and you'd be like, man, I feel so good about myself because I did the shit even when it was hard, even when it was annoying. And you get increased that self-esteem. It's gonna help. It's gonna help in the future.
Yep, that's absolutely right. All right. Yeah, we are, we have been talking on, and I think we can go on for next couple of hours if we keep doing like this. So maybe let's switch gears now and just get to some final questions for the podcast, So Morgan, what is the best, or I would say, in other words, what is the book that you'll recommend which had a major impact on your life or your own profession?
Look, I love the 10X rule by Grant Cardone. That one really taught me to think a lot bigger than what I was currently thinking. The Magic of Thinking Big, same thing, huge thinking. And then Your Erroneous Zones by Wayne Dyer. That one really helped me sort of uncover a lot more of behaviors I was doing that wasn't really serving me.
Okay. What is the best advice that you will like to give to our listeners?
Yeah, the same advice that my mentor gave me. Stop taking advice from broke and unhappy people. That's the thing that comes up all the time. They're only going to lead you down to a path of mediocrity.
Yeah. Your network is everything. You become what you think about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. How would you like to give back to the world?
How do I like to give back to the world?
Yeah.
Everything I'm doing, for sure. Yeah. Creating the education to help people sort of learn the things that they should have learned in school so they can start to, overcome adversity faster, overcome adversity better, and becoming a more confident person.
All right. Sounds great. And final question, how can Decoding Cashflow listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, so a couple places. Instagram at Morgan T. Nelson. That's my main place there. We put out so much content on that. I reply to all my DMs on there as well. And then we have a podcast as well, Dream Out Loud. So number 6 podcast for personal development, entrepreneurship in Australia. So there's so much content on there. I've interviewed some amazing people. I've had Les Brown, Dr. John DiMartini, Chris Voss, Mark Victor Hansen. We've had some amazing people on that show. So that's called Dream Out Loud. They can get that on any channel and also on YouTube now as well.
All right. Sounds great. I'm sure some of the listeners will surely get in touch with you. Maybe, they might get subscription to one of your coaching class. You never know.
Never know. Yeah. Come join us in Australia at one of the events. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Ted, thank you so much for having us on, my man.
All right. Thanks a lot for taking out some time and being on the show.
Thanks for listening to Decoding Cashflow, brought to you by Aster Capital. If you found value in this episode, then please share it with someone who you think could benefit from it. And make sure to act on what you've learned. If you want Ted Patel to personally help you reach your goals, then feel free to set up a one-on-one call with him. Also, visit us at astercapital.com for more free resources. Content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. As always, please consult your own advisor before making any investment decisions or setting a course of action. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of Decoding Cashflow, and we'll catch you in the next episode.